Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this afternoon's webinar entitled Introducing the Produce Safety Portal. My name is Elizabeth Newbold, and I'm the Assistant Director for the Northeast Center to Advance Food Safety. And I'm joined today by Chris Callahan, the Director of NECAFS, Hans Estrin and Rachel Schattman from UVM Extension. And I'm pleased to have this presentation today and this introduction to the Produce Safety Portal. This is a project that was actually supported through the NECAFS Special Projects Grant Program. And this grant program was available to fund focused projects with very clear near-term outcomes related to regionally important food safety issues among small to medium-sized producers and processors. And so we're excited to share this project with you today, and I'm thrilled that Hans and Rachel from UVM Extension have agreed to be the presenters and walk us through the portal and demonstrate for all of us how this can be used by the growers within Vermont and across the region. So before we get started and before I turn it over, I want to just get a sense from all of you through this poll to check and describe what role within the produce safety or food safety community best describes your role within the community. So if you can go ahead, actually this is a poll that you can actually select more than one. I know that oftentimes people identify as more than one role within the community. So if you feel that you're one or two or three, go ahead and select. And if you are selecting, those of you who are selecting other, please fill out within the chat box what you describe yourself as within the produce safety community, so we get a sense of what that other is actually indicating. And so I'll leave that open for a second and quickly describe to you, there are two boxes that we'd love for you to contribute either questions or comments through during this webinar. So the chat box is intended to just provide comments or bits of information. And then there's a question box. And if you have actual questions for the presenters, please feel free to type those in at any time. We'll save questions until the end of the presentation unless they're timely to what's being discussed during the webinar, and then we can sort of address them in that moment. But if you have any questions, put them in the questions box. And if you just have a comment or would like to share information, please put that into the chat box. So it looks like for the most part, we've got educators, and I'll go ahead and close this poll. And thank you for giving us that information. And so with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Hans and Rachel to give a presentation and walk us through the Produce Safety Portal. So thanks so much.
Thanks very much, Elizabeth. This is Hans Estrin, Produce Safety Specialist Educator at UVM Extension, and Rachel is here too, and you'll get her in a second. I'm going to lead off here, and what we're hoping is to really just give an intro to what we've been working on, and and thanks to NECAFS, this has been possible. Really why we did it, how we did it, an intro to basic functionality, and then an overview of what we think the potential for this portal is. So next slide, if you would, Rachel. I'm waiting for the next slide. Well, as Rachel is about to switch to the next slide, there we go. I want to emphasize that I think everyone probably on the line knows the NECAFS clearinghouse, which has become the national produce safety clearinghouse, and the food safety resource clearinghouse. And it's really, these two are siblings in terms of the programming. We worked with the same programmer, and I just wanted to take a second to compare them because you'll probably see some similarities. First of all, audience, whereas the clearinghouse is really focused on you all listening, and the portal is really focused on our clientele, our growers and the educators in this area, but it could be used locally for any growers in the country or educators. Content, where the clearinghouse is really FSMA related, national focus, and portal is farm-specific resources, really practices, SOPs, specific photos of equipment or things people figured out. I mean, it's really specific. And in terms of use, they really share this low burden sharing thing where we're able to crowdsource really and review, peer share lots of important information, and that it really helps with the education and overall knowledge base in the community that is sharing for very little money. And in terms of reviewing the content that goes on, I know peer reviews coming soon with the clearinghouse, and you need admin approval to contribute. And the system's really pending with the portal right now. We're just getting going. We're trying to, there's some self-selection going on and choosing, filtering of models, but it's a moderated form, I would say, and we're getting there. So next slide. So why do we do it? You know, frankly, it was pretty simple. Our website was toast. We needed a new website. There was lots of broken links, impossible to find stuff, and the host was going away. So, but we didn't really have the money or resources to grow or maintain a website. We're really too busy out in the field helping farms. So we figured, well, somehow we need to capture what we're doing and learning directly from those lead farms and make these lessons available to all. And that's really where, when the clearinghouse came along, we're like, oh boy, this has some possibilities. Next slide. So why did we do it? Rachel was really on this, and I'm turning over to her, or how did we do it, to explain that process a little. So Rachel.
Yeah. So we wanted to really talk to the growers that we were hoping would be using this website and these resources at the design phase. So we held a focus group, which was supported by our NECAFS award or sub-award, brought 8 growers together to have a discussion with the web developer that we were working with. And Hans did a great job facilitating that focus group, starting with some pretty high level questions about how farmers were even interacting with websites in general and what they found were some of the best practices and worst practices in website design from the user's perspective. And we also, of course, picked their brains about what they needed the most help with in terms of content, what kind of content they would be looking for, what kind of informational resources they wanted, and also what they wanted to learn from each other. I think what I heard was a real desire to be able to see through photos and case studies what other growers were doing, what worked for them, what they struggled with, because as we all know, in the heat of the season, few people are getting off of their own farms to go check out what someone else is doing, especially if that person is further away. So yeah, that was our focus in the focus group. After the focus group, the developer built a beta version, which we then were able to get 3 of the growers who had been part of the original discussion to re-engage on a video chat or a video call to give us some feedback on the actual website. And I think what we heard was that the growers really appreciated that we were able to offer them stipends for their work in this area and their help on the project. So that's how we did it.
Great, thanks. And those stipends as well were not only for the design, but for the population. Populating with SOPs and case studies, growers were directly involved as well. So this is really an outline of what the portal its roles and what its potential is. And we had spoken, we're looking at the grower specifically as a resource for them. And to really get to see in depth some of the specific practices, best practices, and standards that folks are norming to. And of course, that has community benefit, and a lot of it has to do with this norming, that when growers see other lead growers they like, and they like what they're doing, the whole community, when enough people see this stuff, will start to norm towards those best practice standards. And the other benefit kind of came together with another grant I was part of, really about TA providers working together and working with growers over time, and the reporting that's required of that. And all this stuff ended up feeding together in some synergy, which we'll go into towards the as we wrap things up. So next slide. So direct grower benefit, let's dive into this. It's a curated resource. So right now, again, we've got this moderation it's a little bit self-selected and also filtered through us for the population of this. So we're really showing these local case studies, photos, lessons learned, and then this one-stop shopping potential for really searching all of our stuff and searching other places for stuff that we've tagged that we think is important that might be anywhere on the big wide web. So Rachel, why don't you lead us into this?
Sure. So I almost forgot about the animation. So I'm going to take us out of the slideshow and bring us into an online demonstration. We hope this goes well. So when you come to the Produce Safety Portal, this is the first thing that you see. You can select what your role is, and that just helps us with some of our analytics, figuring out who we're reaching, or you can just click past it. I know that the last thing people want to do really is create another account with another password, but I promise you that if you do it for this website, you will be so happy. So just to kind of show you how easy it is, I'm going to demo putting one in.
This is your actual farm.
This is my actual farm. Yep. Hopefully, I think that I haven't already signed up using this email. Pretty sure. So here we go. So easy to create an account. Your content has not been saved. Excuse me for a second.
Oh, so many.
So it's so easy, I promise. I think it's just that I didn't let the CAPTCHA. Okay, great. Then you go to your email address and you refresh. You guys can see how often I check this email. And open the link, create a password.
And we're showing you this because educators out there working with farms, we really hope that there's some of you out there that are going to want to use this in your work. So sort of showing you what it's like as a farm going into it.
Yep. So there you can see, even with a hiccup, it took, what, under 3 minutes to create your sign-in? And then we can get into the actual material. So this is the first thing that you see when you click out of your dashboard and into the search function of the website. One of the things that we were really excited about when NECAFS came out with the clearinghouse was the ability to tag resources and sort them. So for instance, if you can click again what kind of user you are, and there are specific resources that are tagged as being of interest to different groups. You can also look under different types of resources, whether you want fact sheets or videos, tools or calculators, or you're looking for specific people and services. And then this is where we get into some of the topical choices. So for instance, if I were to click on worker health and hygiene, we get the most recent resources up at the top, a nice little topic summary and a summary of what the resource is. And then if you click on something that has an external link, what it will do is it will bring you to that external website. So I think this is an important thing to realize about the resource. And if you were to perhaps share some of the materials that you develop in your work through this portal, know that it's not decreasing web traffic to your institutional site, but rather it's just a way to draw people onto your website or to introduce them to your resources. So we hope that you'll see it as an opportunity. So here's Hans's awesome video on effective hand washing.
I can't believe you showed that. I'm gonna have to get back at you.
Some of the other things that we think are interesting and useful. Oh, also you can save this search and come back to it later. Say you don't have time to go through all of the different things that you pulled up, but you're interested in going back to it. You don't have to research. You can save it and come back later. I think another thing that we heard from growers that would be particularly of interest are collections of videos and photos that, for instance, if you just kind of wanted to see what a basic hand washing station might look like in the field, but you don't need to read a whole fact sheet about it, there is a collection of photos with captions that people can get information quickly and easily from. One of my favorite parts of our content are the case studies, which some of them are populated by our team or people that we've worked with or who we've solicited their help to input the case studies, but there's a specific format that is just for growers to put in what they've done on their farm, what they've liked about it, what they haven't liked about it. So I'm going to take you through what it looks like from the grower's point of view to put in one of these case studies. So first we go to add or manage content. It says you haven't contributed anything yet. I'm going to add content, and the thing that I'm going to look for first is this case study. If you wanted to upload something like a fact sheet, you could do the existing resource. If you wanted to upload just a photo or a standard operating procedure, each of these different types of content has a different format for entering and uploading. So this is the farm case study. If you click down on this, you get the farm name, you enter in who the person is who's writing the case study, where you are, what you grow, kind of all the background information. You also have the option, if you're a farmer, to enter that information in when you create your account. And I believe it will auto-populate if you get to this place. So then you can create the content. You tell us what you did, you tell us why you did it, how much it cost, how did it help you, what were you most pleased with, if there are any mistakes that you wanted to share with the world, and then adding a slideshow or a collection of pictures, which I think really brings a lot of life to a case study. And when it's finished, I'll show you what a final one looks like. When you're finished, it looks like this. We'll pick on Becky Madden. So one of the things we were going for was a pretty standardized format. So there's not a lot of room for people to play with bolding or bullets. Sorry, Chris. But we think that that will help kind of if folks are cruising through a bunch of these to get a sense of what the spread is of people, what they're doing. So I like it because we encourage people to put in the dollar figures, how much they spent to get the project done. And then there are lots of great photos. I like this one because it shows a lot of the work in progress. And there is the option to download it as a PDF. So you can print it out, take it with you. Maybe that's a little overambitious to do on a webinar.
I will point out.
But yeah, I'll stop there. Hans, is there anything that you'd like me to show before we scoot back? Oh, well, here is the PDF version.
Yeah. Great.
Okay, nice.
And all the photos, the thing to realize is, and maybe you could show the photo upload just before we leave this, you know, like you were going to upload a photo if you're a farmer. So the photo is very simple. It's just a photo and a caption, and that is nested in the case studies. It's nested in the SOPs. So it can stand alone, right? Just a title and choose the photo and an optional description. Or no, it's not optional description. It's a one to two.
Required description.
Yes, that's really important because you know, at a minimum, just you know, working with farmers and you see a great thing, or you snap a picture of someone and ask if it's okay if they share it. You know, there's this opportunity within, you know, it take you a minute to upload this, and then it's searchable, taggable, and we can build a really nice library of some things very easily. That's it.
Okay. Anything else you want to show before we go back to the slideshow?
I think you pretty much covered it. Save searches, favorites. So yeah, if you can click on favorites, this just ability to start linking things that you're in all the time. You know, part of we're not there yet. This is sort of more long range, but this concept of this one-stop shopping, where a dashboard or a desktop really could be created with that could integrate some farm data and integrate searches and be able to get to different places as a farm that you need to get to a lot. There are no favorites in here now, but you know, this could fill up with the key things that you use all the time. Okay, that's it. So in terms of the you know, the grower obviously can be using this and presenting as they upload stuff, or as growers collectively upload stuff, or us educators or service providers or regulators upload content. The community really can benefit as a whole. And I just want to, one thing we didn't show is that you can search by images as well, which really brings up more like a Google image search. So growers can hone in on something that looks good and then click on it and open it and maybe even find it within a case study. So all these photos come out of, they're nested in all sorts of places, and they're all drawn out and distilled in the image search. So really the grower community, because these are farms, lead farms in the area that many of them know, there's really a lot of ownership of this content. And because of that, it has a lot of traction. So these almost become these community norming standards, if you will, or possibilities. Or another way to look at it is this is a current snapshot of what our practices are in Vermont, or this community, the Vermont vegetable and berry grower community, which is some of the New England states. And again, what I've seen over and over is this community norming that really drives the adoption of recommended practices. We could spend so much money as educators going out to farms, running workshops, running trainings, and trying to get growers, and then trying to figure out if they've implemented or have done these recommended practices. So much of our time is spent trying to do that. And lo and behold, what we found is when we post these things, all of a sudden you go to farms you've never talked to before, and they're doing all these practices. Well, how did they learn? They sort of learn by osmosis. We have this community norming behavior as primates, as humans. We want to be like the crowd, and we want to be in with the know and do things like the way it's done. And this is a really good way of showing that. So that's important. Can you click that? The click through, Rachel. So one thing to think about here is not only the benefit, but how cost effective this is as for an educator. And the clearinghouse has some data already, in its current form, which is not that old and with not a huge reach. It's going to increase a lot. There is every day about an hour of contact time, and it's growing. And this is really low burden. It's low cost. Once this thing's set up, people are coming on here and looking at the clearinghouse and learning things. This can happen in the grower community as well. Okay, next slide. So the other benefit, which kind of has been developed in time, and it is something that our produce team is really thinking about and working on. But basically, we got in this position where we need to report in different systems about our impact and what's happening. And we're writing grants and saying, yeah, we're going to show this impact. And this all of a sudden becomes this possibility, this website for reporting. And it really is a curated resource, and it can support our field work as educators, and it can support our funding proposals. So we can say, like we hope to reach 30 growers and have them implement, this new wash pack system, and those growers will report out on this portal with a case study. And that's the end goal. And we've already done that with produce safety improvement grants with the state, and it's starting to work really well. The Agency of Ag in the state of Vermont is excited to partner on this. So it becomes a dynamic. The nice thing about that is it's not just a report that sits on a shelf and gathers dust. Your report out as an educator can be a dynamic searchable database, really, that the technical that your recipients from your technical assistants, you're really going to show that impact in a way that others can see. So what has to happen is really to do that, or one way to think about doing that is that as an educator, as you're writing funding proposals, that you're actually including grower stipends to support this farm integrated impact reporting. And so the farmers actually getting a little boost of money or encouragement at the end to report back. And that really brings us full circle into the synergistic impact reporting, what I would talk about, where something feeds back positively on itself to help the farm community and help with this norming process, which is incredibly cost effective. So if we can get, if you can move ahead, Rachel, that'd be great. And click again. So this is the first slide, but to wrap this up, another way to think about this synergy is that we really have three major audiences, and they all can positively benefit each other, right? The direct grower benefit of searching and then finding stuff that they need, saving searches, and as they do that, if they have models to share, they can share that, and we can share the good models, and that really benefits the community in a cost-effective way. And if we're raising funds to help the growers, or we're trying to report out, we have an option or an opportunity to use this dynamic and searchable database really as a place to report our impact, or have farmers report the impact. And we can always edit stuff and oversee it. That remains to be seen. But we see it as a way of bringing these three audiences or benefits potentially together. And I really hope there's some folks out there who work with farmers and be like, this looks good. I want to try this. I'm working with these 5-6 farmers in this grant, and here's a possibility. Or you see good pictures of things, you can snap them and take a minute or two and upload them, or have growers do that if they will. So I want to end there really. And Rachel, we couldn't have done this really without NECAFS support, and this in a way the support of this whole group. I honestly, the meetings and webinars we've been in, I don't think any of this would have happened without a lot of impact and input from some of you out there, just saying things that got us thinking. And so I want to say that thank you to everyone, and hope that some of you out there would join us in using this. And any questions? Or Rachel, you want to add anything?
No, I'll just reiterate our appreciation, and yeah, we look forward to hearing if anyone has any questions or what your impressions are about the usability of a farmer-facing resource like this.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Hans and Rachel. So yeah, if you guys want to start entering questions into the question box, or just general comments or thoughts as we start to walk through some of this. At the same time, I would love to launch another poll. Hans was talking about helping growers to contribute material, and we're just wondering, do you foresee that you would help growers to contribute any of these items that are on here? And one of the reasons why we ask is that if you do, but you want to have some additional support, Hans and Rachel have indicated that they would be very happy to provide additional support to you or to a growing community in your state or our community to help them put information up on the portal. So there is some help available, but definitely looking also to this group of educators and regulators to encourage or support growers who would want to put information up on this new portal. So, wow, looks great. Other people are saying the leading one is case studies right now. This is great. Thanks, folks, for voting. And you can choose more than one, again, for this one. So if you feel like you would help with more than one of these resources, you can check as many as you'd like.
Yep. Yeah,
I'll just leave this open. Hans, go ahead and fill in any details to what I've said.
So it's we can watch live the polls coming in, and we've got 62% people voted, and we're up to 2/3 anyway who are interested in case studies or could see that, SOPs half, and photos with captions 42% right now. So that's great. We got some people out there who might be interested in this, and Elizabeth tells me, I guess there's a way of knowing who you are, or being able to reach out to you, and just we would let you, we do a follow-up webinar or something for a smaller select group in time as we gain some more experience with this as well. But it will be this season, in the next month or two.
Okay, looks like voting has ended, so I'll go ahead and close this. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So if folks have any comments or questions, you can go ahead and put them into the question box. Thanks, Chris. I'm guessing you just shared the poll results?
Hope that's okay.
Yeah.
So high tech.
Are there other poll questions? No, that was 2 of 2.
That was it, yep.
So I'm not seeing any questions coming in or chat activity. I would ask the group attending whether you foresee any challenges with using this, or any based on your first impressions, anything that you'd like to suggest. So Sejal from Rhode Island has noted that she plans to create an account right after this. Wondering if it's okay to share specific content on a weekly basis via our e-blasts to Rhode Island farmers through a listserv, or if you would rather have us just send them directly to the site. Let me know if you need clarification. Bear with me 1 second. Clarification on my question. So I think the question is essentially, how do you imagine the content on the portal being shared outside of the portal?
So yeah, I outside of the portal, I'm a little confused by that.
So they have a regular e-newsletter, let's say, and
yep.
they want to share resources that they've discovered on the portal. Best to link to the portal, or is it okay to share directly? Like download the material and share directly, perhaps?
Well, I think the material can be downloaded, right? The PDF stuff, or it could be linked directly. I think any of those things are fine. The one issue, I guess, is when they go to the initial link, they're going to either need to click create an account or just search content, and then they're going to need to potentially go through that gateway, but I'm not 100% sure. We're gonna have to try that.
So my guess is Pete used the same structure as a clearinghouse. You can actually get a link for a specific resource that has a unique URL that will bring people specifically to that resource.
Great. So. The other option with the account is MailChimp, which is built in, and we haven't publicized that yet, but where you can get a download of new stuff, and as administrators we get that. It is the potential is there for users to get that too. So if that's something that would be of value, it would be good to know, because it's pretty easy to push the go button on that one.
I also believe that when you are signing up for an account, you can check a box that says notify me when new content is added, and I believe that's a weekly summary. I might be wrong about that, but I think I remember that.
Yep. Great.
Okay, that appears to have answered Sejal's question. Other thoughts from folks?
I will also, I got a question through email before the webinar today from somebody who was not able to attend, and she was wondering if this is intended for, this is a UVM Produce Safety Portal, and she was wondering if this was just intended to be used by Vermont growers, or if you see this as for growers across throughout the Northeast and other states within our region.
I can answer that, at least give one answer, which is I see it as its primary origin being in this place with the growers that we contact. That said, it's open, completely open. And its value, I believe, as sort of having a community own the content is that as if there's a grower community that the word gets out and they start to upload stuff, the more of their farms that start appearing in the searches and the SOPs from different farms or case studies, the more that ownership will occur and be spread. So I think we're not limiting it at all right now. It's completely open, and it's going to be populated at first by the folks using this website, and that's not to say it can't, others can't contribute.
Chris, do you want to? Okay, so there's another question or comment that came in from Amanda. No, that's okay. So Amanda says, not sure if this is in scope, but regarding compensation for growers, is there a forum or guide available or shared regarding appropriate farmer stipends? I have traditionally included farmer participation stipends, but it would be helpful to share. So are you looking, Amanda, I guess just to see what the ranges of compensation have been for growers in terms of stipends to participate?
Yeah. Rachel, do you want to answer that?
Sure. So as Hans mentioned during the presentation, we had farmer stipends that were for participation in the focus groups, but it sounds like what Amanda's asking is more about for contributing content. So I believe, Hans, correct me if I'm wrong, that we offered $100 to growers to submit a case study or a full SOP. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep. And photos, and there was some back and forth potentially as well.
But that being said, I don't think when we settled on that amount, I don't think we quite had a sense of how long it was going to take people. So yeah. I would do that again. Hans, if you have any thoughts, feel free to chip in.
I kind of like to think about making it worth their time, which is, at least $25 to $50 for an hour of time as a ballpark. And when we were writing the grant, we didn't really know how long it would take. I think the SOPs, often growers didn't take more than an hour, so they were getting a pretty good bonus out of this one. But that was our deal. And I guess a photo shouldn't be $100 most likely. So if it was going for that, maybe it's a bunch of different photos or that kind of thing. I'd be interested to know what has been done, Amanda, with your farms.
She indicated she's within that 25 to 50 hourly rate as well. And I'll say also on several advisory groups that grower advisory groups and processor advisory groups that we have for various projects. I've welcomed those participants to tell us what their daily rate is, and that's been gaining traction, which I'm grateful for.
Yeah, I really think growers appreciate that. For those of you who've done it, Amanda, you probably would agree. It's really important to have that, even though they might do it anyway, just to just have that token.
And Amanda has volunteered to write guide that she'll post on the clearinghouse, looks like.
Oh, that's great. I'd like to say one thing about this review and the content. I think I didn't see the question, but we maybe were anticipating, how this could get out of control. What if someone posts, something that's not a standard that we want people to emulate, and how are we going to kind of oversee that? And well, I think there's some weight in that argument, and I think it's of concern. We've talked about this, and what I do want to say, and it's a sort of interesting point, is that we are in this development stage. We don't really know what this snapshot is of the standards. There's some self-selecting going on because we ask people or inviting people if they've done something they're proud of, and basically this stuff, the farmers that raise their hand are doing a good job by and large. So what we're kind of doing is taking a snapshot that's been filtered toward the better the better practices in our community, and we're opening it up, but it is filtered, self-selected, or by invitation, which is open, but it sort of filters in the way it's worded. So I think that is helpful. But we could evolve into, or may need to evolve into, some sort of oversight or scoring, but we can't really do that until we got a good sense of what we have.
I would just echo what you said earlier, Hans. I think part of the real value here is at least gaining a community-wide visibility into what practices are, and just supporting peer sharing of that. And I think there is some inherent peer review that will occur even without a real formal structure. But
yeah, and relevant to this group too, this we're talking about the PSR and guidance specifically on what's appropriate cleaning or what it should look like, and none of us really, we kind of have an idea, but it's going to be a couple of years before we really get a sense of the industry standard. And this is one, I've seen this as a place that in some ways we can put some of those, like some techniques for cleaning barrel washers and hard to clean things, and that kind of thing, that we can put this up. Here's the industry standard as we see it, and it's the higher end of the industry standard, but it's what we got to work with, and so it could be an aid, I think, in regulating and administering the PSR.
other questions or comments from folks?
Yeah, Mark just comments that he agrees, I think, with Hans's statement, and that materials need to be reviewed, but what a great set of information when completed. I'm going to hide this poll so people have the link again to to both Hans and Rachel's contact information if you have follow-up questions. Additionally, this portal has been linked on the clearinghouse, so if you go into the clearinghouse and search for it, you can find it there and find the link to it. So that connection has been made. Any other questions or comments before we end for the day? Any final words, Hans, Rachel, or Chris?
Not from me. Thanks very much to everyone for calling in.
I'll end by saying I think this, is a work in progress, and it will be more complete in a year or two. But I think it's an evolving. That's the notion, is that it's an evolving, almost community-owned, but peer-reviewed and moderated space to share specific practices. So
okay.
Hope you contribute.
Great. Wonderful. Thanks so much, everybody, for taking time this afternoon on a Friday, and have a great weekend and take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.